In the heart of Appalachia, where the fog clings to the hills like a shroud, some stories are best left unspoken. This is one of them, a tale from the 1950s, pieced together from fragmented reports and the hushed whispers of those who remember. It's a story about a place where isolation breeds suspicion and fear takes root deeper than any mountain oak. Welcome to rural Kentucky, a land that has always kept its secrets. Our story begins in a small, secluded town, the kind you wouldn't find on any map. Here, nestled at the very edge of the woods, lived a family that kept the rest of the community at a distance. They were known simply as Little Bertha and her identical twin sons, Gumbo and Darby. In a town where everyone knew everyone's business, the twins were an enigma. They moved like shadows, their gazes lingering just a moment too long. Neighbors would cross the street to avoid them, their silence more unsettling than any threat. They were a part of the landscape as strange and imposing as the dark woods that surrounded their dilapidated cabin. People didn't understand them. And what people don't understand, they learn to fear. The year was 1956. The chill of late autumn was setting in, and a sickness had descended upon the twins' cabin. For days, no one dared to approach the property. The fear of the twins was a powerful deterrent, but as Bertha's condition worsened, desperation took hold. There was only one person in town with the knowledge to help and the courage to try: Dr. Russell Sprout. He had tended to every family in the valley, but he had never been called to the twins' home. Until that night, guided by a single lantern, Dr. Sprout made his way up the winding, muddy path to the isolated cabin. As he approached, two identical figures emerged from the shadows of the porch: Gumbo and Darby. They didn't speak. They just watched him, their faces impassive, their eyes reflecting the flickering lantern light. With a silent nod, they let him pass. Inside, the cabin was sparse, lit only by a few candles. Little Bertha lay on a simple cot, her breathing shallow. Dr. Sprout set down his medical bag and began his examination. The twins stood in the corner, unblinking, their presence filling the small room with an unnerving tension. Minutes ticked by, feeling like hours. Then, a final, ragged breath. Little Bertha was gone. A profound silence fell over the cabin. Dr. Sprout, accustomed to delivering difficult news, turned to face the brothers. He expected tears, or anger, or the raw, hollow grief that follows loss. He got none of it. Instead, Gumbo and Darby took a step forward in unison. Their expressions hadn't changed, but a new, chilling intensity burned in their eyes. In a low, steady voice that cut through the silence, one of them, no one ever knew which, spoke. "You hurt Mama." It wasn't an accusation. It was a statement of fact, a verdict delivered in the flickering candlelight. Dr. Sprout was stunned. He tried to explain, to offer condolences, but his words were met with cold, unwavering stares. Shaken to his core, he gathered his things and left the cabin, the twins' final words echoing in his mind as he stumbled back down the dark, misty trail. In the days that followed, an uneasy quiet settled over the town. The doctor tried to go about his work, but he was a changed man. He seemed distracted, haunted. He told his wife he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Then he vanished. Dr. Russell Sprout, the man everyone trusted, was gone without a trace. Panic began to ripple through the community. A search party was formed. At first, they scoured the familiar woods and riverbanks, but as whispers of the doctor's last house call spread, all eyes turned toward the hills, toward the one place no one wanted to go, the twins' cabin. Led by the town sheriff, a small group of brave men made their way up the path. When they arrived, the cabin was eerily quiet. The front door was ajar. They called out, but only the wind answered. Cautiously, they entered. The cabin was empty. A cold stillness hanging in the air. But then they noticed a trapdoor in the floor, partially hidden beneath a worn rug. With a sad, fearful glance, they pried it open, revealing a set of steep, rickety stairs leading down into blackness. With lanterns held high, they descended into the shadows, and there, in the far corner, they found him, Dr. Sprout. He was tied to a wooden post, his clothes torn, his face pale and gaunt. He was alive, but just barely. He was delirious, muttering words they couldn't understand, his eyes wide with a terror that seemed permanently etched onto his features. The men carried the doctor out of that dark cellar and back into the light. Dr. Russell Sprout never practiced medicine again. When questioned by the sheriff, his account was fragmented, confused. He spoke of darkness, of whispers, of being held in the cellar for what felt like an eternity. But his story was too disjointed, too broken by trauma, to form a coherent case. And what of Gumbo and Darby? By the time the sheriff returned to the cabin with a warrant, Te Were Goni, they had vanished as silently as they had lived, melting back into the Appalachian hills from which they came. No charges were ever filed. No trial ever took place. The official records of the incident are thin, almost non-existent. The case simply faded away, closed without answers. The twins were never seen again. The cabin eventually crumbled, reclaimed by the forest. But the story didn't disappear. It became a legend, a cautionary tale whispered by grandparents to their grandchildren on stormy nights. A story about the strange twins who blamed the doctor. Was Dr. Sprout a victim of a cruel, paranoid act of vengeance? Or did something else happen in that cabin on the night little Bertha died? The truth is buried with the past, lost in the fog of memory and time. What remains is the chilling legacy of fear. The story of Gumbo and Darby serves as a haunting reminder that in the most isolated corners of the world, paranoia can be as real as a locked door, and suspicion can be a sentence.